Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.wordpress.com and I'm here today to do another Sunday scoring with you. So, I know there are lots of lovely new items in the spring and summer catalogue, and I've used one of them here, which is the lovely designer series paper from the Cupcakes and Carousels, and I've used it to combine with some of the things in the autumn and winter in the annual catalogue to show that you haven't got to go out and buy everything new and shiny, much as we love to, but when you've got your lovely new things, you can use what you've got already to really coordinate and make some fabulous new projects and give them a real zhuzh. Now this is a card which I have to say I haven't seen anybody else do. There's no doubt somebody out there has done it, but I haven't been able to find one. I've called it a fan front card or a Concertina front card, and you can see there it really gives you a feeling of dimension. So when it's open and standing, you get this lovely feeling of dimension, which I've emphasised by putting the die cuts, and that's how it looks when it stands up. And then on the reverse, I've just put a thank you so much sentiment, but obviously you could write on the inside as well. I've left a little space there, or on any one of those panels. But I rather liked the effect of just putting it on the back, so that it becomes a little bit of a decor piece for the recipient. Okay, so to start off with, you're going to need a scoreboard or your stamping trimmer, and you're going to be I'm going to work in inches today, but I will put the measurements in centimetres on my blog as well. I'll try and do the centimetres as we go through. So you need a piece of cardstock, which is 9.5 inches, which is around 24 centimetres, by 5 3/4 inches, 14.5. And you're going to score every 1.5 inches to start off on this piece, which is our front. So you're scoring at 1.5, at 3, at 4.5, at 6, at 7.5, I couldn't remember that for a moment, 7.5, and at 9. Now the measurements do work out slightly different in centimetres, so I will check them and put on the correct measurements just to make it nice and easy for you. What I usually do is I do them separately in inches rather than just converting, because otherwise you get stuff millimetres, and you know that then becomes a little bit tricky and it doesn't always fold as accurately as you might like. So that's the card that you need to score and fold. That's all you need to do in the way of scoring and folding. And before you actually fold it, I suggest you do your layers. So the first piece we're actually going to do is our back panel here. So this is a piece of card which is 5 3/4 by 4 inches, and all you're going to do is just put, I'm using my fast fuse on the back there, just line that up slightly to the right, make sure I've got my cut edge, there we go, and adhere that. So that makes our card base, and we're then going to put our panels on, and you'll see it's easier to do that while it's flat. Okay, so it's alternate panels. So you're going to cut 3 panels of card, and that is 1.25 inches by 5.5 inches. And when I've cut them, what I suggest you do is if you keep them in order so that they actually continue the pattern. So you can see there that, there you go, that's a 6 by 6 piece of DSP. I've cut 3 pieces off of DSP, sorry, the DSP is 1 inch, and I've trimmed them all to 5 1/4. So just to recap, you need 3 pieces of card that are 1 1/4 by 5.5. You need 3 pieces of DSP to go onto those, which are 1 inch by 5 1/4 inches, and then this back panel, to be economical with DSP, you could cut a second piece of DSP if you wanted, but I've just kept it at the 3 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and the card that it's going on is 5.5 by 3 3/4. So those are our panels, and then all we need to do is just adhere those using our adhesive. And I say, I mean, you know, you you could use a whole piece of DSP, but I felt that because that's hidden by that first panel, you really do, I didn't feel you needed to cover it, but it does depend how you feel yourself about things being equal all the way around. I quite like it to be a little bit offset sometimes. I tend to be a bit of a frugal crafter. Some might say mean, but no, I would say frugal. I don't like to waste. We spend money on these lovely products, and I like to get the most out of them. And also because I find that otherwise I end up with lots of little pieces which I then have to keep together in order to use them. I'm not saying I throw them away either. So, having created our card base, quite simply you're going to concertina fold. So that is your mountain, and then your valley, and then a mountain, and your valley. And again, you'll see I'm just reinforcing that on the reverse side. Another mountain and a valley. And there's our card base. So, having created our card base, what I've then done is die cut. This time I've used the hearts rather than the flowers. So you've got, what I've done to strengthen them, I did the same with the flowers, is I die cut them out of the coloured cardstock, and I then die cut them out of the thick Whisper White cardstock. And the reason for doing that is just to give them a little bit more strength. You could die cut probably 3 out of the same cardstock, but I think the problem then is obviously you've got to adhere the 3 together, and I didn't think it really needed it. So all I'm doing is putting, oh, you can't see that, okay, I'm putting glue, and this is our fine tip glue, just on half of the heart. I'm going to repeat that for each of them, and I'm just going to leave it set. It's quite, this fine glue is quite wet, and so on these fine die cuts, it can just come out a little bit. So by leaving it to one side just for a few moments, it just takes, it makes it just set, and it still glues absolutely fine. Obviously the other way to do this would be to use a method I've used a few times before, which is a piece of sponge and some of our Tombow glue, and on some, either some spare card or preferably on like a sort of Teflon or silicone mat. And that work, and just dab that all over. That works well as well. But when you're just doing half, I wanted to use the fine tip glue. So then all we need to do is just layer our hearts onto each of those pieces. And what I do here is I start with the top and the bottom one, because then when you fold it together you can see where your middle one should go to get a nice effect, and then you can just pop it in at the appropriate point, here, like so. Just press down just to keep that in place. So there are our 3 hearts, and then I've used a similar effect for our thanks word, but what I've actually done is die cut it in the Bermuda Bay, and then I've die cut it in actually early espresso, and the reason for that is that then gives a pretty shadow, and it picks up the early espresso that's actually in the cardstock, the DSP as well. And then again you just come on the back of your word, and say by slightly offsetting it, it just gives that pretty sort of shadow effect, which has been done lots of times before. But it's always nice to revisit techniques. And you could whip up, apart from the die cutting, you could whip these up quite quickly in terms of a card, and so you could maybe stamp layers instead, anything you like really. But I just thought it was a little bit a slightly different one. So I rather like the effect of having our thanks on the side there. So I've set that down, and then I've cut a piece of Whisper White for the reverse to do our stamping on, and you'll see that a couple of the edges here are, you might be able to see, are a little bit ragged. And just a useful tip, if I've got one of these sanding blocks, all I do is I turn it on the reverse. It's when my blade's just starting to go, and I cut it, and I thought, actually, yeah, I won't cut a fresh piece. And by doing that, you just take the rough edges and it just neatens it up slightly. So we can come in and do our stamping now. So we'll have Bermuda Bay, and then the stamp is from the Thankful Thoughts stamp set. Although I have to say, what I probably should have used is this new set. So here we go. Let's have a look at that. All Things Thanks. You see, brand new stamp set, pristine. So let's use this. Thanks for everything. See, crafting on the go. So one stamp set. So I am using more than one new thing. Couldn't resist. And then just literally, thanks for everything. And that's actually a great stamp set because actually it's got some lovely wedding sentiments in as well. This one, thanks for joining us. So that's great for weddings. But this one, thank you for being part of our happily ever after. Great. Thank you for welcoming your arrival as well. So there's our panel for the back. Just some snail because that card isn't going anywhere. It's not part of a moving piece. And that, by putting a panel on the back, it actually just covers up that seam we've got from where we joined our card. So, thanks for everything. There's our thanks card. You could easily turn that one, I feel, into a wedding card as well, or an engagement card. So, out of a couple of die sets you may already have and some new DSP, you've got 2 cards, which I hope would be appreciated by anybody as a way of saying thank you. Thanks for watching. Do come again soon. Don't forget, if you want any products, any supplies, go to my Stampin' Up shop, and the details are in the description bar. Just press the little arrow to the right and it'll give you the links to both my blog and also to my Stampin' Up shop for any supplies that you want. Do join me again soon. Bye for now.